I heard something in a sermon on a podcast recently that's been sitting with me all week. It wasn't complicated. It wasn't some grand life hack, but it hit me right in the chest because it described something I do more than I want to admit. The speaker said, if you can live with even 20%, that's good. You can live. And I immediately thought, have I ever actually lived that way? Because if I'm honest, I don't naturally look at the 20% that's good. I fixate on the 80% that's wrong. And not just noticing it, I interrogate it. I replay it. I analyze it. I try to solve it. I beat myself up for not being able to turn that 80% into something better. And while I'm doing all that, I miss the moment. I lose opportunities to be present. I lose the small joys that were still sitting right there in front of me. I waste energy on what could have been, what should have been, instead of living inside what I actually have. People talk about gratitude all the time. It's one of those words everybody agrees with. But in my own life, I've realized it's often heard of and rarely practiced. So when I heard this sermon, it didn't feel like inspiration. It felt like a mirror. And the point wasn't ignore what's bad. The point was this: if all you do is stare at the 80%, you'll end up building your whole life around what hurts you. Because you can't live with someone or live with a season of life if you only talk about what's wrong every single day. The speaker gave a simple example that honestly made me laugh because it was so real. He doesn't drink, doesn't hit you, brings the paycheck home on time. If you wake up and talk about the other 80% you dislike every day, you won't survive together. You can apply that to a marriage, but I think most of us apply it to life itself. We do it with our health. We do it with money. We do it with our families. We do it with aging. We look at the parts we can't control, the parts that didn't go the way we planned, the parts that hurt, and we keep talking to ourselves like that's the whole story. And here's what I realized. Sometimes the 80% isn't even bad. It's unfinished. It's in progress. It's human. But if you treat it like a courtroom case every day, you live inside stress every day. The sermon included a story about a priest being sent to a newly started parish. Nothing impressive, nothing polished, no beautiful building, just a rough setup, almost like starting from scratch. And some people refused to come. They complained, they argued, they said they weren't coming. Instead of fighting to prove a point, he did something that shocked people. He didn't chase them. He didn't get bitter. He didn't start a war. He simply said, if you don't want to come, don't come. Not because he didn't care, but because he understood something. If you drag people into a place with resentment, you don't build a community. You build a wound. So he focused on who was there. At first, the numbers were tiny, and he admitted it felt humiliating because he had come from serving a place with big crowds. But then he said something I loved. Small numbers were actually wonderful. With fewer people, there was more warmth, more presence, more laughter, more connection. They ate together, they talked, they built real bonds. And somehow, people passing by started noticing, not the building, not the size, but the feeling. And slowly, people started coming. That's what the sermon kept circling back to. Where there's division, resentment, and constant complaint, nothing moves. But where there's joy, real, grounded joy, things begin to grow again. And I want to be careful here, because I know how this can sound. This isn't saying, just be happy and everything will go your way. That kind of advice can feel dismissive, especially if you're carrying grief, anxiety, or exhaustion. What I took from it was something quieter. Joy isn't denial, it's direction. Joy is choosing where you place your attention. It's deciding what you will feed, because your attention is a kind of oxygen. Whatever you keep breathing life into grows. If you keep feeding bitterness, even a good life can start to feel unbearable. But if you protect what's good, even a hard life can start to feel livable. Then, the sermon shifted to something that felt especially relevant as we get older: Many people spend decades being good, responsible, sacrificing, holding everything together. And one day, they wake up and realize they don't even know who they are outside of those roles. They've been a parent, a spouse, a caregiver, a worker, but they haven't been a person to themselves. That kind of quiet self-erasure eventually shows up as resentment, fatigue, or emptiness. Choosing joy in this sense isn't indulgent. It's deciding to come back to yourself. It's stopping the habit of postponing happiness until everything is resolved, because everything never fully resolves. Then, there was the part about comparison. You can feel content until you look sideways. You finally reach one goal, and suddenly, it's not enough, because someone else has more. The finish line moves, and when the finish line keeps moving, joy never arrives. Comparison doesn't hurt loudly, it drains quietly. That's when gratitude turns into a slogan instead of a practice. So I asked myself something uncomfortable after hearing that sermon. When I say I'm not happy, am I actually unhappy? Or am I just comparing? Am I truly missing something essential? Or am I staring so hard at the 80% that I've lost sight of what's already working? Because the truth is, for many of us, we have more good than we admit. We just don't feel it because we don't slow down enough to notice it. The ability to walk outside today without thinking about it is already wealth. We wake up, we push, we worry, we plan, we fix, and we call that being responsible. But sometimes responsibility without gratitude becomes a kind of quiet self-punishment. So here's what I'm trying this week. When my mind starts spiraling into the 80%, I'm going to pause and name the 20% that's still good. Not to erase the hard parts, but to stop letting them take the whole room. Because I don't want to reach a quieter season of life and still be unable to enjoy it, simply because I train my mind to only look for what's missing. If you've stayed with me this far, I want to pause and say thank you. Not just for listening, but for the life you've already lived. Most people here have carried responsibility for decades. You've shown up when it was hard. You've made sacrifices quietly. You've held things together without much recognition. So, if this message stirred something, if it made you wonder whether you've been spending too much energy on the 80% that hurts and not enough time honoring the 20% that's still good, that awareness alone matters. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to earn rest or joy. Sometimes the shift is simply allowing yourself to be present without correcting the moment. If you feel comfortable, I'd love to hear from you. What's one small, ordinary thing in your life right now, something quiet, that you're grateful for, even if life isn't perfect? And if today isn't a grateful day, that's okay too. Thank you for showing up honestly. I'm grateful for this shared moment with you. And I hope you carry a little more gentleness with yourself into the rest of your day. Because noticing what's still good might be where things begin to soften.